Welcome back, parents, therapists, teachers. I am Sonali Vongchusari alongside Diana Yokley, and we are so thrilled to get to share this space with Emily Murray of Hand in Hand Parenting. Welcome, Emily.
Thank you. Thanks. It's great to be here.
It's good to have you back. For those parents who are getting to experience Emily for the first time, she's warm, she's kind, she's caring, she's committed. She's someone who feels like you're sitting next to her in your living room having a cup of coffee. You feel comfortable around her. So I'm looking forward to where we're going to go today in this conversation. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and read Emily's bio for everybody. So Emily is the mom of two from Maine in the United States. She found Hand in Hand after struggling with understanding and managing all the big feelings, hers and her toddlers. Hand in Hand's approach and tools offered a whole new perspective and a whole lot more calm and connection. It was such a positive shift that she became a certified instructor and then program director so she could share the Hand in Hand approach and tools with others. So I'm really excited for you to be here and represent Hand in Hand Parenting so parents can learn more about the organization. And also, of course, we're going to dive into asking you specifics that will also involve your own personal parenting examples. So welcome.
Thank you.
What I would love to do is to dive in with the end in mind. So could
Yes.
we start off with, for parents joining us, what is the one core message, Emily, that you want parents to walk away with at the end of this interview? And then we'll dive in and pull it apart.
I would love for parents at the end of our time to feel like they can take a nice deep breath and have a perspective that's bigger than this one, hot minute of, you know, they're in it, it's messy, you're in between them. And those minutes are real and they happen and we have to work on those. But this is a lifelong relationship that we're working on, and you have a lot of time and we have a lot of ideas to share that can help things go better. So we can all kind of take that step back and look at that really big picture together.
I appreciate the way that you said that because it creates room for us to work on it. I think everybody here can relate to when our kids are fighting. We're like, oh my gosh, like the doom moment. Like this is it. This is how they're going to be forever and ever. It's
Yes.
over. So thank you for phrasing it in that way.
Yeah.
Why we dive into this, um, with like when our kids are fighting, when it's either verbal or physical, or like there is fighting, squabbling, rivalry happening between them. No parent wants to be the referee between our kids. And yet we end up in that space. So how do we begin to step out of that role?
Yeah. It is so hard because those head-to-head battles, whether they are verbal and especially if they're physical, they
Yeah.
do need some kind of intervention. Like, we don't want to just let them unfold and have kids hurt each other, because they don't want that to happen either. But it can we can get dragged in and start feeling hopeless about how to do anything else, because that moment feels so urgent. So, one of the things we can do is to start shifting our perspective. And I think the one thing that really helped me with my two is releasing any expectation or responsibility that I have to make it fair. And, of course, we want some sense of fairness in general in that big picture. But we don't necessarily have to have that burden of being like the judge and jury, and I'm going to make a decision about who is right and who is wrong and who gets what and who gets this. And if we can lift that burden, it can open up some new possibilities. And the other piece of that invisible pressure that's coming in those moments is, thinking that this means I'm failing. And because they're fighting, I'm failing. And the reality is that good children, good siblings, good people, they, we're humans. We're living in close quarters. We're going to have some skirmishes. It's just going to happen. But we can see through that and see their goodness and see their good relationship. It's under there, I promise. Even in the worst of the worst times, there are seeds of goodness in there. So that first shift is for us to do.
Yeah. I love this. And it makes me think of how we don't want to get rid of conflict. We want to replace unskillful conflict with healthy conflict resolution skills to prepare our kids for future relationships with other people in their life and the world, and negotiating with others to get their needs met. And so I know what you're saying, like when parents might feel like my kids are always fighting and that guilt sets in. But I think it's also different when your kids might be disagreeing and having a conflict. But if it's done in a healthier way, it doesn't feel so guilt inducing, right? It's like they're actually still going through a conflict right now, but I don't feel guilty because I see they're trying to work through it. And that's a whole different possibility, right? That we could coach our kids into doing over time.
Yeah. And
Something.
that coaching, it gets easier if, in those hot moments, there are feelings that are erupting out. And when we're in that deeply feeling state, we don't have as much access to
Yeah.
being rational or logical or thoughtful at all. We can't have compassion for another person as easily when we are feeling like, we are the victim, or we're so angry that we have to fight back. So the first step to get in that direction, from a hand in hand perspective, is dipping into a stay listening situation with children. And this is tricky when there's more than one. But with stay listening, we're just committing to letting those feelings flow out, hearing them, validating them. Even if we don't agree with them, we can validate the feeling. So we stay close, we listen one child at a time, and it can feel a bit like a ping pong match when you're listening to one at a time in a hot moment. But even just murmuring little bits of support, like, I hear you, that was really upsetting. And that validation isn't determining someone was right or wrong, it's just simply listening. So all those feelings pour out, and then they can think about proactive solutions or really good ideas.
I'm thinking about a couple things. I'm wondering if Emily, you can share an example of like what's really grounded in for parents with how they move from having two kids who are screaming at each other because that was my red truck. No, it was mine. You stole it from
Yeah.
my, you know, into the stay listening, like what that would realistically look like to move from that and wanting to separate them and moving
Yeah.
into space. And I think in moving into that space, the thing that I was thinking about earlier, Diana, when you were commenting on the guilt, I was like, ooh, ooh, because how can we like maybe we don't feel as much guilt. And what I was thinking is because what was huge for me to realize is you might not feel guilt, you're still gonna feel really uncomfortable when they're
Mm.
fighting. You're still gonna feel really uncomfortable. So could you share an example? Like let's say it's the red truck, they're fighting, no, it's mine, no.
Yeah. Yeah, so with a stay listening approach, to that moment might be, I'm just gonna put my hands on that truck so it can't be thrown at someone, or we stop the kind of yanking back and forth. I'm just gonna hold that truck right there, and in that moment, I'm going to, as much as I can, give my full attention to one at a time. And you might have to say to one, we're going to figure this out. I'm going to listen to your brother. And as you're holding it, I hear you. You really wanted the truck. You think it's your turn. Yeah, this is a really important thing to figure out. I hear you. And then you turn to the other one. Yeah, you really want this truck too. I hear you. And just validating, yes, you are heard, your desires are being considered. And as you're saying that, it's not, you're just inviting them to pour out the feelings while you're keeping that central excuse for all of these feelings to flow out central, right between them. And you could kind of pull it into your lap, which pulls them a little bit closer too. But it really is about, as much as you can, give full attention back and forth until those feelings have drained enough that that there can be a conversation.
Mm.
What I heard in that, Emily, and this is the first time I heard it in this way because of the way that you said it, is that remember at the beginning when you said like who's right, who's wrong, who's good, who's bad? You
Yeah.
shift your decision making from who's right, who's wrong to your decision to hold that truck, to press
Yeah.
pause, literally, so that like from like one grabbing it or the other one grabbing it. So that's where you take your decision, right? And
Yeah.
that was like
Hmm.
that was a cool. Like I always thought that was so cool the way that you worded that. Um,
I
and
love
then
that because it like gives parents a focus point. Like, what action am I taking if I'm not allowed to decide who's right and wrong, which is what the brain, adult brain, loves to do, problem solve. It's like, what am I supposed to do? Well, you're supposed to go in there and make a decision to keep the neutrality of it. You're the moderator of the item, and your action item is to keep the peace, right? During a tense time kind of thing, right? I like that. It gives parents like something to go in with. If they have an
Yeah.
energy, like a sympathetic energy to move in with activation because kids are arguing, move it towards the item that's being shared, that's inanimate, instead of against the perpetrator. Stop picking on your
Yeah.
sister,
Yeah.
you're not supposed to say that to your brother. Instead of the
right.
humans, focus on the inanimate objects.
To keep the peace, you keep the peace. Get it? Like keep
Yeah,
pace. P-I-E-C-E.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's a
I love
tone
that.
that I use in those or a tone that I bring for myself. And the tone that I try to start with is whoops. Like, whoops, we got into a thing here. And I find when I can slip into that whoops kind of tone, I can bring it better. I don't
Mm.
come in with that urgency of needing to fix it or needing to make a decision. I just come in with whoops, oh, something's going on here. And that shift for me totally changed the way I could show up in that moment.
Mm.
Appreciate you sharing that because I found like one word things like that like change the energy. Whoops.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And I mean, it's not going to be every time. There's certainly
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
still going to show up with, your hair on fire right along with them some days, but when we can shoot for that here and there and we can weave it in more and more, it just changes the dynamic in a really nice way.
Hmm.
Mhm. So what if while you're validating one, the other one, while you're trying to validate them, Emily, is over there interrupting you?
Yeah. I mean, this is not easy. It's really not easy. And as best as you can, like sometimes I'll even just like turn my whole body and almost like be a shield or a blocker. And I'll tell that child, I'm going to listen to you in just a moment. I'm going to be right with you. I'm going to listen to your sister right now. And then you turn. And as much as you can, like they're going to do their thing and they're going to come at you at your back and they're going to try to get the truck too. And you just do your best to, you might listen for 3 seconds and then say, okay, I'm going to listen to your brother now. And then you turn and you listen to the brother. So it might need to be quick ping pongs so they can feel you and hear you.
Mhm.
But as much as you can, do that full attention for each one.
Mm.
I'm
Thank
also
you.
wondering, I'm wondering if the approach would differ if you're dealing with preteens or even teenagers.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know it can be a lot more of an adult type of conversation with teenagers, especially like 13 and up, right?
Yeah.
How would that conversation differ if it would differ at all?
So, I mean, even as an adult, I still find great benefit in having a chance to just blurt out my feelings and not have to be burdened with being rational or logical about it.
Yeah.
So there's still great benefit to giving a chance for that stay listening, emptying out of the feelings. And I think with tweens in particular, there's such a deep desire for justice there that that really needs to be heard too. So
Mhm.
before and actually, I think with tweens and teens, we can be sucked into getting rational and logical too quickly
Yes.
because they can go there. So it's almost like we have to stop and pull ourselves back and remind ourselves to listen a little bit longer, just let them pour it out just a little bit longer before I before we start problem solving or before I offer an idea or a fix that they might not need once they have a chance to empty it all out.
Yeah.
Also, that sometimes with teens, tweens, they start to rationalize and give solutions before they're actually ready as well.
Yeah.
Too. Like, so it's easy for us to start doing it because they're like offering solutions, but while they're still having like in a way that they're trying to find solutions to help them get out of the emotion.
Yeah, totally that can happen.
Yeah.
And what is the downside of that between the siblings? Like, if that keeps happening over a period of time, what erodes between the siblings? What is a missed opportunity there? I'm thinking
You
of a
mean
particular
if
thing.
we
I'm just
don't
wondering what you guys think.
if we jump too quickly to solutions
If we
rather
don't
than
let them, if we don't take the time to allow them to hear each other's emotions, like I felt hurt by that, and then the other one doesn't get a chance to feel empathy for their
yeah,
sibling.
I think there's a chance too that when a person doesn't get heard, oftentimes we end up kind of tamping down that feeling, and I know for me it becomes resentment, and
Yes.
I am even more likely to feel triggered by a situation because
Yes.
I wasn't heard that last time, and that sense
Yes.
of unfairness or not enough, or I didn't have the connection I needed, or you always win, which they're going to say anyway. But that when that gets tamped down and tamped down and tamped down, it's more likely to continue to come up. So the more we can clear it out as it's happening, the better.
Yeah. I love that. So it's actually an antidote to sibling rivalry because
Yeah,
expressing each other's feelings, even if you don't even problem solve through it, even if you
right.
just express feelings, I think it
Yes.
allows for goodwill
Yeah.
to be built between the two people that are having the conflict so they can kind of reestablish each other as humans that have needs even though they're different. Like, I'm putting the human back into you instead of I'm taking the humanity out of you. I don't have empathy for somebody that's not a human. Now I can do all sorts of violent things to you because you're not a real person, because I don't know what you feel, because you don't seem to feel anything, because it's just about the technical solution, right?
Yeah, and that sense of the adult that's here is going to show up with good thinking and going to support us through these squabbles. Um, is that sense, I think, also helps to turn the volume down and turn the emergency down between siblings too. That I can show up with, this isn't an emergency, these things happen. That energy, I think, can help siblings feel a little bit less at each other's throats too.
Mm.
Yeah.
Can we summarize? Because Emily, I know you said it in a couple different pieces, like what's actually underneath sibling rivalry, and then what can we do to help tame that tension or even get ahead of that tension? That
Yeah.
siblings.
So, I mean, when an older sibling gets a younger sibling, that experience is a really difficult experience, even under the best of circumstances, because now all of a sudden their whole world just got an earthquake and the connection that they count on just got shared. And even if an older sibling is excited about a younger sibling, that feeling of there's not enough, or is there still enough for me? Will they still be here for me? Even though they're not able to verbally say that, their system is afraid. Their system is afraid there's not enough. So, this sense of disconnection or this sense of attention is elsewhere. Therefore, it's an emergency for me. So I have to do what I can to get that attention back. None of this is intentional. This is not manipulation. This is just simply a nervous system, a human trying to get their needs met. So when we see it as a connection need that we can meet, then we shift from feeling annoyed to just simply making space for it, like we do, like they need a snack, they're hungry. Oh, they need a connection moment. They're feeling a little depleted of connection. So we can work these in, and ideally as proactively as we can, we meet those connection needs so they don't then later erupt into, sibling squabbles that where they're trying to get our attention somehow. And we also need to be mindful of and thinking of just their general sense of the stress or the tension or the fears that come up in any child's life. If there aren't enough opportunities to have those experiences listened to and heard. And again, it doesn't have to be like, I'm going to tell you about my difficult school day now. That's not how children work. They're just going to, come home and be a little cranky and want to crash and bash a little bit. So maybe we meet them with some playful wrestling. Be like, oh, you're really coming home with some crashing today. Let me get ready. And then do a playful wrestle for 5 minutes when they get home, and that helps relieve that tension. And they're literally physically feeling you, so they're getting a sense of connection. And all of those help to reduce that there's not enough fear that comes up for children. So, proactively looking for ways to meet connection needs and you've got me messages being sent to them.
Yeah,
Got
so
me.
there seem to be some key themes between siblings when we think about unmet needs. There's definitely like a few kind of top targets that parents should be checking off their list. Like maybe it's this, maybe it's this. So you would say, can you kind of re-summarize those again? What would be kind of those top
Yeah.
things?
So in my family, I like to think of it as emotional system maintenance checks, where I do this kind of big picture look of like what's going on for my oldest this week, and my children have an age spread that's a little bit bigger than most, but um, I try to tune into what's stressful about school or how are their friend relationships going and how are they showing up? Like, are they withdrawing a little bit? Are they cranky? How can I reach them? And so, my oldest, one of the things that I did a lot for them when they were younger, actually, even early tweens, teens, is I would look for ways to do like extra caretaking. So I would bring them their favorite cup of tea and a little snack as soon as they got home to just show them I noticed you. I see you. Here's a way I'm tending to you. My younger, on the other hand, would much rather like me to show up with some physical play. So I might playfully bump into them and invite a little tussle of some kind, and look for a way to do that kind of physical outlet so they can drain some of those like ants in their pants feelings. So it depends on the child, depends on
Yeah.
your energy level, what you have the ability to do on any given day. But when you're doing it proactively, you can better plan for your own needs in this mix too. So, you aren't pulled into a fight when you
Yeah.
really don't have the resources, but proactively, you might have an extra 5 minutes here or there that you can do that kind of pre-maintenance work.
I love that you brought up with teens and tweens like that, showing them that you care, right, in some really tender ways. I found that to be so supportive. With my teen or teens, like it's I give them a back massage, or like
Yeah.
bring them a glass of water, or oh hey, can I carry that for you? It shifts the energy completely, and so they can relate to that. But lets them know that you're willing to do some things for them that maybe they can do,
Yeah.
but they still get to be, you know, nurtured in that way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that sense of my parent is on my side,
Yeah.
which I think can help to diffuse some of those sibling battles too, that, we do want to make sure that we aren't taking someone's side more of the time. And I don't know about either of you, but noticed that I tended to take the side of my younger child more. And it just so happens I'm also a younger. And so I did a little bit of thinking and work around my own ideas of that fairness piece, because I was just kind of remembering how unfair it felt as a younger, that my older sibling got to do different things or got different things. So just being mindful ourselves of, oh, am I identifying a little more closely with one or the other? Something to work on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love that. Go ahead, Sonali.
I was gonna say absolutely. Like noticing like where we tend, I'm always having to check myself. I'm not the youngest. I'm the third of four, but I always notice I'm like, oh, I have to check myself with my middle, but I have to check with myself with my youngest. Am I babying her?
Yeah.
Am I
Yep.
like holding her to a different standard? And then and my older two boys, well, they are so good about letting me know.
Yes, they
So,
do.
yep, they do. They let us know. So I love that you brought that up. Go ahead, Diana.
Yeah. I was just gonna say like every family has a family system, and it's unique to that ecosystem. But different people in the family play different roles, and sometimes it's like our own stuff gets passed on unconsciously into the family system, and we're trying to work it out in real time with our kids, but it's all unconscious. Or like we could be doing that like in favor of what we were like, or even against ourselves. It could go
Yeah.
the opposite way too, where if you were the middle child and you have a middle kid and you're maybe the harshest with them because
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
maybe still harsh with yourself, right? So it could be either pro you or against you. And the idea is
Yeah.
to just become aware of that and again go back to that fairness, which really just means unconditional emotional generosity for everybody as much as you
Yes.
can, right? The ultimate
Yeah.
goal. But
But as we're thinking about those patterns too, the patterns of how we're responding, we can also think in a big picture about behavior patterns too. When do conflicts tend to happen? About around what do they tend to happen? Um, and when we can look at behavior patterns and fight patterns, sometimes um, we can notice like, oh, it tends to be in the evening or, just after dinner or on the weekends when they're bored. And so that's another way for us to be proactive, where we can look for ways to um, invite connection before those squabbles tend to happen. And sometimes it's as simple as boredom or hunger or transitions or tiredness and we can work on those things too. But that bigger picture of patterns can really help us with that idea of being proactive. So, I might add a little bit of special time first thing on a weekend morning so I can meet that connection need before boredom makes them really cranky. Um,
Mm.
and sniping at each other. So where can I tuck in a little connection to meet that need?
yeah.
Can I ask you one other question? Because when you're talking about this, like, okay, how can we notice these patterns and so we can bring in the connection? And something that I've heard you talk about before, and I'd love for you to talk about now is like, okay, how do we break, not only work with the fighting, but also create some laughter, some joy, some enthusiasm, some fun together as well between our siblings?
Yes. And before I give some ideas, I do want to acknowledge just how hard it can be sometimes to find playfulness at all inside of us because life can just be such a wet blanket over that spark that we need in order to generate some silliness or playfulness in our lives. So um, I don't want you to hear right now, here's one more thing for you to have to rally for or do. But you can look for opportunities and you can also um, recognize that sometimes when we do bring in a little bit more playfulness, it can be a nice snowball rolling downhill where it gets easier. And playfulness begets playfulness and lightness and ease. And so we can cultivate that, with just a little bit of effort placed here, you know, we can yield good results a little bit farther down the road. So these
Hmm.
are playful ideas, and also here that I am acknowledging that it can be really hard to generate this playfulness. So
Yeah.
a classic with siblings is doing anything you can to invite them to gang up against you. So if they're ganging up against you, they're not fighting with each other. So you might there was this one. time where my kids were squabbling over something, and again, with their age spread, it didn't happen as often as it does with kids who are really close. But I actually, instead of holding the thing right there and stay listening, I grabbed it and I shoved it down my shirt and I said, "It's my turn, you can't have it." And I ran away. And that just ridiculous response, um, it generated like they both started chasing me and they both were trying to get it back from me. And I was the one that was not sharing. And so they got to chase together. And that it was a switch that flipped in that moment where it went from tearing each other's hair out to laughter and silliness. And again, my older was a little older, so it was easier for them to switch into that gear. But classic is uniting them against you. So like, "You'll never get me," or "I don't think it's fair. I want it too." Wah! And you fall on the floor and have a silly tantrum. Um, you can even just start a pillow fight, toss a pillow at somebody's head, be like, "Ah, I don't want to hear this." Toss a pillow at your head, and then see if they'll throw it back at you and start a fight that way. But it's about breaking that tension with
Yeah.
connection and laughter, because laughter bubbles off tension, it bubbles off fear, it bubbles off stress. So looking for ways to pour that in. It can be in those red hot moments, or it can be proactive too.
Yeah,
Mm.
Emily, and I love that you brought up the like you don't want to add one more thing on to parents. The way
Yeah.
that I see it is like that sometimes what happens is we're so stuck in yuck and we believe that we have to work through all the yuck so that we can start to feel some joy and some lightness and some fun. And what I heard you say is, here's your permission slip that yes, yes, there's still yuck over here. Yes, and you can have a little bit of fun if that resonates with you, if that feels like something that doesn't feel like a burden, but actually feels like a relief to say, oh, you don't have to wait for that.
Yeah. Yeah, and take the wins wherever you can. Little micro moments of laughter, silliness, connection add up in big ways. So you don't have to fully transform your whole life and, become the family clown in
Yeah.
order to have this make an impact. Just looking for those little ways to be a little silly, to invite a little bit of, with teens and tweens, sometimes you do things that are uncool, so they can roll their eyes at you and marvel at how much they know about what's cool. And
An
with
example, an example, please.
oh when my older was in middle school, hashtags were a thing then, where, at the end of every post on social media, you'd be like, hashtag blah, blah, blah. And so I would end my sentences with hashtag, like hashtag best mom. And they would be like, "Mom, people don't do that. That's not how you use hashtags." And so they knew I was being silly, but it became a little joke for a while where I was, the dork who didn't know how to use hashtags.
I
Oh,
think
I
also
love
playing their music and just dancing and pretending to sing their
Yeah.
music in like a cool way, and they're just like, "You just made that so uncool." Like, "Oh,
Yes.
this song is amazing. Makes me really want to dance." Like, no,
Yes.
don't dance to this.
Or, finding the song that they think is uncool. Be like, "I
Oh
just
yeah,
love this so much."
yeah.
And they get to be like, "That is the most uncool song ever. I can't believe you're listening to that." Or,
I love
whatever
it.
whatever the phrases are of the day, use it badly, use it wrong, use it out of context, and they get to kind of correct you.
Yeah,
Currently it's the 6-7,
I was
and
gonna say that.
instead of that, you can be like 3-4. They're like,
Yeah,
"No, mom, it's not 3-4, 6-7." But let them overpower you in that way with their coolness. It's really fun.
yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to use that. I love the P4. That's hilarious. One of my
I love
favorites
it.
is sibling conflict, and it's in the morning time. I'm like, the family rule: we pause the sibling conflict until after mom's had her cup of coffee. So this continue after I've had my
Nice.
coffee.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Pause for 5 minutes, and they like look at you like, what just happened? And it puts in enough of a smile and a pause, and
Yes.
it drops everything. So it's one of my
But
favorites.
and it really, we do as parents need to prioritize our own mental health sometimes and decide I'm actually not going to set a limit here, or I'm not going to intervene here. And we can do it in those playful ways. And, we might be pausing a feeling that'll come up in another way later. But
Yep.
we can do that. You don't have to show up for every single squabble or upset with all you've got. You can, meander your way through them.
Yeah, and usually that's one that I and like and when it's something small and exact like where I'm like, whoa, wait, I'm not ready yet. Well,
Yes.
there's two things. One, it brings forward where I am, and two, it creates a container where they're like, huh, okay, I guess she's not. And then
Yeah.
they're able to usually they're able to regulate themselves, and then that's one where when it's a minor thing, they can figure out a solution.
Yeah.
So they didn't believe they had capacity, they
They
did.
really can. They
Yeah.
really can.
Yeah. This has been an incredible conversation, Emily. I love chatting with you. I love that Dan and I got to chat with you together.
Yeah,
Me
I love it
too.
too.
Me too. It's so fun.
What I'd love to do is ground this whole conversation into an action step for parents today. So what's one simple thing that they could try in their home around sibling conflicts?
I think because it was such a game changer for me in how I showed up for these conflicts, it's really that taking a breath and for me, I almost tried to literally see the big picture. Like these are parallel roads that are going to be parallel for the rest of their lives, and this is a really big picture, and it took the weight off of my shoulders in a really helpful way and allowed me to find those little moments where I could be a little silly. So maybe give yourself that breath and then look for an opportunity to just proactively bring a little bit of silliness into the mix with, a pillow fight here or you know, an overly zealous begging for a playful hug there, where maybe they both get to deny your hugs, and that feels funny to them. But look for those little moments of where can I proactively bring in a little silliness here.
Yeah. The power of connection.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
potent good stuff.
It is. It's so powerful. Yeah, I would love for you to share also if you have a free resource for the parents today and they can sign up for additional resources from Hand in Hand Parenting through that.
Yes. So we have what we call our Ultimate Sibling Rivalry Guide, and it really covers a lot of ground from if you're welcoming your second child, and you want to, figure out how to support your older through that transition, all the way up through, you know, getting into those sibling squabbles and transforming them in that way that we talked about today, where, you're kind of if you're curious about how to do that, how to, reset their attention to kind of ganging up on you in fun and silly ways. We have the whole gamut available there.
Amazing. Yeah, I know that's going to be super valuable for parents, especially those that are starting out on this connected parenting journey because
Yeah.
siblings is tough. That's a tough dynamic and it's
Really
so
is.
frequent. If you have siblings, it's like a daily struggle. So if you can get your hands on this survival guide and
Yes.
resource from Hand in Hand, I think it's going to be really powerful for families that use it. So thank you so much,
You're not
Emily.
alone.
Yeah, you're not alone.
Thank
Thank you
you
so much for
both.
your time and your wisdom and sharing with us.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Yeah, parents out there are doing good, hard work, and we're glad to support wherever we can.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Awesome. And
I'd like
Sonali,
to,
I don't know if you had any other final words and then we'll wrap up.
I was going to say thank you so second what Diana said. Thank you for being here, and thank you to those parents who joined us today. We appreciate you being here and opening your
Yes,
hearts.
thank you. And for all you do.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Bye bye.